Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery.
Good morning. My name is Karizma Davis, and I am the Community Liaison for Tarzana Treatment Center. Welcome to another Ayeneh episode. Today I'm here talking to Dr. Michael Dagosson. He is the Clinical Supervisor for Residential, also for Tarzana Treatment Center. How are you doing today, Mr. Dagosson?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about military, families, and everything in between. My first question for you, Dr. Dagosson, was asking you about your motivation for after service to get you where you are now. Like, what motivated you to go into the clinical field?
Well, first I'd like to acknowledge when I was in the military in Vietnam, all the brave comrades, a lot of them which didn't make it back. And then secondary, after coming out of the military, it was different than it is today, because the military coming out, nobody liked you. It was very difficult. And so I learned how to isolate and find other ways to entertain myself, if you will, to feel good. And I think that's a very common thing. It was for me to do things that would distract me from my emotions and look for things to do that just basically gave me immediate gratification. Okay. And although I was able to maintain employment, that was my main thing. What do I do to lose myself and basically and cope? I didn't know then what I know now, that I was suffering from PTSD. But back then, there wasn't something that was recognized. So There was nothing that was brought out. So from there, from my self-indulgence, ultimately I was exposed to the criminal justice system, and they recognized that there were some values within me, and so they urged me to go into treatment. And it was a behest at the request of the judge, and I was smart enough to realize going to treatment was better than going to prison.
Right. And
so that's why I elected to do. So I'm really, really grateful for that court. Today we have veterans courts, but back then we didn't have that. We just had drug court and other courts that saw the benefits of helping people who had substance use and behavioral issues to put them in treatment rather than just simply locking them up and forgetting about them. And so after entering that treatment program, I went ahead and kind of wondered what I was going to do with my life. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to go back to what I had been doing. And so they recommended I become a counselor, and I did, in that treatment center that I was in. And from there, I went ahead and realized going to school would really help me be able to help others. And I started going to school, and about 21 years later, I became a doctor.
Awesome.
Okay, and so in the treatment programs, anyways, from counselor or technician to counselor to senior counselor to ultimately a clinical supervisor. That was my road, and I am truly grateful for Tarzana Treatment Center for the 26 years that I've been with them.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And that's really good, and that's honorable. I'm glad you're looking back, right, on the people that you're with.
Right.
So I have a couple of questions. One of them was the availability and quality of support programs for spouses and children of veterans, like when they get out of the military. A lot of them don't even know what to do. I know when we were in, I didn't know what to do.
And so although there are many different support programs for families, for children, however, getting both parties on the same page might be more difficult.
Right.
Because the military, the person coming out of the military, they may not be able to recognize, as I did, that I had a problem. And the military teaches you, self-reliance in a group, or self-reliance, and to be a part of a group. And quite frankly, in the community, being with a significant other, having children, that the military man or military woman has their viewpoint based on what they've been exposed to, but it may not be in line with what is going on and the needs that the family has.
Right.
So whenever possible, there are services available, counseling centers you can call, and there's so many resources that the VA has, or even calling Tarzana Treatment Center and asking for help can open the doors to mental health services, treatment services, family services, or referrals for those services. So, but reaching out and doing that and getting both agreeing to it is the most important thing.
I agree. I agree. And what about social isolation? Like, how does that impact the veteran and their families, especially after they get home?
Right. It has a great impact because the role of what you do in the military, you have a job designation, you've been assigned to do something, you have a team that you work with. However, the roles when you're with your significant other and the children may not be the same because you haven't been involved in parenting, you haven't been involved in dealing with the day-to-day issues that come up in a household. So, but rather than saying, I can't do this, it's just easier to feel uncomfortable and isolate and kind of withdraw. And sometimes, sadly, the communication is significantly infected by the military person or man, woman or man, not being able to say, I don't understand what to do. I don't know how to help you. So it's just, well, you do it. In other words, it's like a dissociation, but it's not for lack of caring. The person truly cares. It's just they're confused by the anxiety and the uncertainty of dealing with that at that moment. So they retreat, they isolate, and they do other things rather than interacting with the people they truly love.
True statement. Yes, absolutely. And then when it comes to the community and their role in the community, like I know with my husband, sometimes it's hard to get him to do stuff, just to leave the house, or and I just say if you can connect with somebody, maybe that can help. So my question would be the role of the veterans community networks and the organizations in their lives.
Okay. Well, I think they can play a significant role. And they're very, very beneficial. But as you say, it's difficult, again, for a person who doesn't quite know how to interact, and they've learned not to isolate because they're not in a familiar territory, and then to reach out and begin to just ask somebody, hey, where can I do this? How can I get connected to other vets? Becomes more difficult. On the other hand, you can, by going to the VA, meet other people, and if possible, talk to them and find out, where they're going. Or nowadays we have computers, you can do a query and ask for VA programs, and just everything pops up.
Right.
So that the isolation is a way of coming out. It's important to come out of the isolation, and the importance of the significant other to encourage that is also very, very important. And then identify where, and maybe accompany the person initially to those meetings or to those groups so they get introduced. I've been a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the VFW. Anyway, that one, and there was another one I'm a member of. Anyway, so those are important that you can go to, but again, initially that might be more difficult till the person really becomes acclimated to being back in society.
Right. Okay. My personal question would be, how do I get my veteran, my soldier, to have better communication? Like get him to open up to me about stuff, like rather than just saying, well, however, just get it done. But I feel like there needs to be a conversation other than just trying to get it done. What would be the best way?
Right.
And also without triggering him.
Right, and that's a touchy ground. It's like, what do I say without causing a sense of anger because it's foreign? So the soldier or Navy man, whoever, they may go ahead and have learned to basically just do it, just get it done. And the significant other, on the other hand, getting it done means I'm feeling uncomfortable. I need to let you know I'm feeling uncomfortable. So you communicating on two separate channels. One is cognitive and one is emotional. And so maybe letting the other person know, I really feel awkward, but I would like you to tell me more about what I'm asking you. If you don't know what to say, tell me more about that. In other words, in a kind, loving, caring fashion, so that, just make me understand. Please make me understand. I know you say, just get it done. And I think that's magnificent, but I'm not quite sure what the steps are to get it done.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And then just like you were motivated, going forth with school, well, motivated first by the courts to go to the treatment, and then treatment led you to go to school. That's one of the things I want to know also. How can I motivate my veteran? He's already been out of the military for about 15 years. And I'm trying to, even just to find a passion, it's something that he would like to do since he's already retired now and he has all this free time. How would I go about to motivate him, or even, like you said, open up the lines of communication to see what it is that he wants to do and then help him do that?
Yeah. And that is tricky. And it's, can you connect with him and ask, what do you get from going to school? Do you have any other plan? And you can relate it to when he was in the military. What was your mission? Did you have missions? So what was the mission? It wasn't just simply to go ahead and learn how to operate a piece of equipment or a weapon or anything like that. Okay, what was the mission? So what's the mission if you go to school? I know the mission might be to go ahead and do something that's interesting and helpful in learning, which I totally support. I still take courses, everything I can to keep learning. And so that's number one. It's very important. It's very good that a person does that and is interested in doing that. But again, try to connect so that you help me understand. You asking, help me understand how what you get from going to school. And can that serve a mission? Or if it isn't, how can we find out what the mission might be?
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. That's a good one. Work on that and apply that to my everyday. I have one last question. The impact of the military's life and children's education and emotional well-being. Because in my own experience, when my husband did get back from Iraq, he didn't go to any kind of formal training. He literally got off the plane, got his duffel and came home with me. And that was kind of scary because I was like, well, he's been doing this overseas all these years, for the 15 months. When he goes to sleep, is he going to remember that he's in the States? That was one of my big things.
Yeah. And that is a very, very important point, because now you have a change of roles, a role of more interacting with a person that loves you versus interacting with a group of people who you are dedicated to because that's what you learn. And you learn how to interact with that group of people. And now you have a different role. Much less now if you have night terrors or you have something else going on that you might worry about your safety, and rightly so. So, preferably, if possible, and the spouse is willing, you talk and get counseling and find out what is needed, what could be done to prevent anything from happening. If the person does have night terrors, or they get up and they don't know where they are, what are they doing? Your safety is not just your safety, but their safety.
Right.
Okay, what happens if they walk out the house? Are they going to get lost? What's going to happen? Are they going to get, anyway, so.
Right.
So it's important to express that concern and then find a solution by either going to people that can help, and again, sort it out and see what could be done to optimize either the person being able to sleep all night long, or, what else can be done to handle those night terrors or handle the sleepwalking.
Right. I also try to make everything so familiar. So however the house was when he left, I didn't move or change anything. I tried to make it be exactly the same. Like as I sent pictures over, and that he could see, or we did the video calls. When he got back, okay, he's gonna see the background. This is where I sat at the desk talking on the phone, and so that it would be familiar. I thought like maybe that would be, and that was my own little spin on things, just so that he would, if he did wake up and go into the living room, he's like, okay, well, I'm here, and I remember this, like to trigger his memory to, where he was originally.
In worst case scenario, you can put something on the door so when it opens, well, ding, ding.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
On the other hand, it can be triggering, so you got to be careful which type of method you use.
Okay. So I would like to talk about the GI Bill. For one, how do you get to the benefits for the GI Bill so that my veteran can further his education or any active duty?
Right. Yeah, the GI Bill played a very important part in my life. That's what initially would allow me to go back to school. And now accessing that service is relatively simple because you have veterans, their benefits officers, and again, here in LA, also the federal building can really give you the most benefits or access to the most benefits, which includes vocational rehabilitation. So if you need retraining, because the military will teach you to do something. Whether you're an infantryman and your job is to carry a weapon or a grenade launcher or a machine gun, whatever it is, there's certain things you have to do that. You have to maintain it, you have to learn how to fire, keep maintaining, so on and so forth. Well, in any job, you're going to be given an assignment and then you go ahead and do the task. And they will teach you what to do in terms of the task. So the federal building, however, has within in its building, you have a vocational rehabilitation officer, and you also have other services for housing, for rent, and so on that can be readily accessible. Versus going just to the VA center in Westwood or one out on Plummer in the valley here. There's Building 10 that does that, where you can ask, you can go in, and again, they will let you, you ask at the front desk, hey, I would like to talk to this person. If you don't know anything, and they will guide you where to go. Okay.
Good information to know. Because I know when they get home, I know they can't always do the exact same job they were doing before. So yeah, the training is very much so needed. So, and then how do they access physical health services, rehabilitation for injuries and they can sustain during service?
Right. And usually now, if you have an injury, when you come out, they will give you some instructions. But again, the main thing is to go to the VA building. If you're in the valley, it's the one on Plummer, over by Nordhoff and Plummer, or in West LA. You go to the West LA VA building, and you check in. You have a front desk. You check in, and you give them your information, and then they will go ahead and guide you to the right person so you can be seen. And especially, like because of my time in Vietnam, exposure to Agent Orange, that was my process. I waited till I think I was like 65 before I did that. And, but anyways, better do it than never too late.
Right.
Because certain things started happening. I said, this is weird. And so they helped me.
So what about is that part of your experience with the legal or disability claim for the service-connected injuries?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they will help you. You have a service officer who will help you do the paperwork and get you to find out what you need, apply for the DD-214, or they can get all that. So, okay, that has your record, your time of service, and everything.
And then what about the stigma of veterans even just receiving help?
Yes. So that, I hope, because of what I see today and the gratitude that people express for service members, again, that was totally absent when I came out of the service back in at the tail end of 1965. But again, just asking and going to the VA, going to the federal building, or there's a helpline. Because today, you have so many veterans, unfortunately, who get so isolated and so despondent that they take their life. And sadly enough, I think it has to do with not being able to reach out, that they have more of a sense of loss in this, in our busy society.
Right.
And all the things that it's coping with things in the military is there's a sense of safety because you know what you're doing. Yes, when people are firing at you, you're not safe, but you've been trained so that you don't give in to your emotional stuff, but rather to what has to be done to accomplish the mission. And so that's been trained into you, but now you come into civilian life, and it's a whole new ballgame.
Right. Yeah, it is.
You know?
So a new set of responsibilities and a new environment. And that'd be
who you meet, and today especially, at one time you could meet people totally differently, but now you have dating game, where you get websites where you can go for activities. Some you like walking or hiking, you can find people who like that. So
the same thing.
there's different ways. The main thing is not to just isolate, but to be involved.
And be involved. Well, I wanted to thank you for your service. I really appreciate it, for your time that you served and keeping us safe here.
Well, and I'm forever grateful for having the opportunity to be where I am and to do what I do, and to be able to remember the brave soldiers that sacrificed their lives. They made a movie, Mel Gibson made it. It was called We Were Soldiers. Mm-hmm. And that outfit is the outfit I was in. And they did a pretty good representation. Anyways, but thank you.
Good. Thank you. We'll be back. We're going to take a break.
Welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Okay. Karizma. So I would like to ask you a few questions so maybe you can give our audience a better understanding. For example, was the experience when your husband came back from the military and was transitioning back to civilian life? How did he transition, and how did his transition affect the family?
Well, when he came home from overseas, he came straight home with me, which was surprising to me because I had never experienced any kind of deployment, or I had no idea how that worked. So I thought he was going to go somewhere and have a debriefing, okay, we just came from this combat area. We're going to talk to you about whatever we're feeling, or however I'm feeling, or whatever I'm anxious about. But that did not happen, to my surprise, and it kind of had me on edge because I said, okay, last night he was sleeping in another country, right? Or whether he flew in from Germany, from Iraq to Germany and then to the States, I had no idea where he was, because when they get home, they're excited to be home, right? There's all smiles, but then I'm like, what about when he goes to sleep? Is he going to remember where he is? And that was my big thing. It was fairly difficult because at the time, our son was 2. He hadn't been there in 15 months. He was almost turning 2, and so my son didn't really talk to him. He kind of was just he knew that was daddy, but he's like mom for everything. And that was overwhelming because now I'm like, well, he's here. Go ask your dad. But I have to remember the same anxiety that I might have been feeling. My son might have been feeling the same thing. And also, I would share that my husband was kind of I don't want to say he was irritable all the time, but he was irritable often. And so my son has a speech impediment because my son, he came, his dad came home and he's like, life is different. He's still, going back to, he still has PT. I think he came home. He was home for I don't know how long they let them stay home, but he had to go back to PT and go back to his regular work schedule. Yes, he wasn't overseas, but that was still affecting his day to day. So it was a lot of, pick up your stuff and hurry up and, just real short with a 2 to 3-year-old that you haven't really been around. Right. So my son and I have this crazy special bond, and my husband was kind of kind of left out of it because he hadn't been there. So, I mean, with him getting out of the military, for us, it was tough. It was really tough just trying to navigate through the system. I think it took us almost 3 years before we actually got the help we were looking for, just because we were navigating the system by ourselves. And it was like, I don't want to say the VA was like keeping it from us, but they weren't telling us directly what to do. So my searches was, my father's a Vietnam veteran. I would call my dad. I'm like, look, we need to start going to the VA. I need to start get some services for my husband. And then a lot of people don't realize when your spouse gets out of the military, all the bills that you had the month before, you're going to have, and he's going to be out of the military and not have a job. And then with our situation, we were moving back from Texas back to California. So that was like a huge adjustment, and just trying to, not even just, I couldn't just find a job because I had I had a 3-year-old and then I had a newborn. So it was just trying to find like, what are we supposed to do next? Like there's no instructions. They do tell you go to the VA, but when you go to the VA, you need to know where you're going, right? And then sometimes the people that work at the information booth, and when you get there, they're not veterans, so they're not privy to what's going on or how to even direct you.
And they don't understand quite what kind of transition a person is going through coming out of the military.
Right.
Right. And how did your husband react to the children?
Oh, he was very short. Well, with my daughter, it was different because when she was born, he was there.
Okay.
So his first deployment, we were only married 3 months before they sent him to Iraq, which I was like, wait a minute, isn't it supposed to be like a year or so when you're first married? But it was different for him because he volunteered. He felt like if he volunteered, then they're not telling him what to do, kind of thing. So he would be able to go and then come home sooner. But with the kids, it's totally different. Like even right now, my daughter's a daddy's girl. That's because he was here and their relationship started from her birth date.
They had a different way of bonding with her.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, so how about for his mental health and your mental health? What kind of access and what kind of impact did the mental health issues have on your interaction with your husband? Because I imagine he had PTSD and again anxiety, depression from such a big adjustment.
Right.
So how did you handle that, or what were you able to do with regard to mental health support and access to to mental health and the impact of the mental health? How did that affect you?
Okay, so when he first came home, we knew that there was an issue. He did let me know that he was sleepwalking, which is something that he was not doing when he left. And then also to say that when he first came home to look at him, he was like not the person that left. He was totally different. His eyes are almost kind of like Buck, like they were wide. He was really wide-eyed. And he was normally a really laid-back person. Now he's more vocal about stuff. So we had somebody helping us get Social Security going, which took a while just because it takes a long time. And he actually had his Social Security started while he was active duty because the situation he had was with a commander. So the commander's wife worked somewhere and she was able to navigate us and help us. So that was the awesome part about it. But I wasn't ready. Like I don't know what I expected when he got home. I thought everything was going to be, plus I was like, 22, 23. I thought everything was going to be like it was when he left. But with the sleepwalking, I was like, okay, now, and we have kids now. I'm like, okay, I got to keep them safe. I got to keep myself safe. There were certain things that he told me, like I wear a scarf, right, at night. He was like, do not wear anything that is skin toned. Like it needs to be bright and colorful and vibrant because I don't want to wake up and think that it's somebody from where I was at overseas.
Okay.
So I had to adjust the tone of colors that I was wearing.
Right.
And just be real vocal more than what I was. Actually, I feel like him coming home changed who I was as well because I was more so of I'm still bubbly, but I was more quiet. No, now I'm having to speak up for myself all the time, and I'm having to, address things that normally I might just let slide. But I'm like, no, I need to address things more because then if I'm not saying anything, then I'm saying nothing is saying something as well. It's like, okay, well, it's okay.
Right.
But as far as the mental health, I mean, it's a struggle now trying to get him to really just go. Because when he first started going to mental health at the VA, and it was at Sepulveda, he was getting someone that was Middle Eastern. And so he was like, they keep giving me people that are Middle Eastern, and you sent me overseas, and I'm fighting these people, and now you want them to treat me here.
Wow.
And so that was a hard thing to try to get him just to even go to the VA. Somebody did introduce me into the VA caregiver support services, and that was like ace in my pocket, because I was able to call them if I had any questions on what I should do. They had trainings that I could go to, little classes that I can go to help combat when he's triggered, right?
Okay.
So like I could snap him out of being, if he gets triggered by something, I wouldn't call him Dexter, I would call him Sergeant Davis. Or like purple fish was one of the things that I would always say, because it would be like, what are you talking about? Or running refrigerator or something, off-putting that's going to make him kind of think about like, what are you talking about? And bring him back.
Out of the trap.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, he was sleepwalk, and we got to know our neighbors real well because he would sleepwalk and walk out the house. Wow. And then the neighbors would call me, because we weren't on base, of course, anymore. They would call me and, let me know what was going on. And I'll be right there in the room, but I wouldn't hear him. But I learned little things like locking the door. Time to go to bed, lock the door, lock him in there with me, because he might not open the door. Because one time at our condo, he actually fried eggs, bacon, and flooded the whole condo all while I was asleep.
Wow.
And so that was almost the start of us getting the mental health going, because I mean, and it was tough for him to even admit that was happening. But I'm like, look, do you think I did it? Like, you know what I mean? The baby's in the crib, and you're the only one awake, and just really him just coming to terms that he needs the support and he needs the help, and having our family support, that really helps, because I can always call his mom and see if she can talk to him about wavering from what I think we should do to get some services. But having a strong support was like the biggest thing.
Very good. So, like a top priority.
Right.
Very good. Now, how about employment opportunities or challenges? Well, did your husband face any challenges with regard to finding employment after military service, or doing something that could either help the family or help him?
Well, there are so many opportunities for veterans and their spouses for employment, but sometimes that's not always the best, fit. Right when he gets home, right when they get home. So what we did was we went to school together. So we would find a vocational school. I took pharmacy. He took massage therapy, and I love that he took massage therapy, because I get awesome massages all the time, and they're on a professional level, and it was awesome. But he never really went back to regular work. But what he does do is volunteer his time to the community, going to the church, and we just being pillars there and talking to the youth. But he hasn't as of yet to go back to work. So what I encourage him to do is find his passion in doing something. So he's like a really good cook. He went to, after that vocational school, he went to culinary school.
Wow.
And I went to theology school. And we have gourmet dinners every evening. And I love it, because now, since I'm working now, so I don't have to go home, and that's one of the chores I don't have to do. Wow. But and he finds enjoyment in cooking.
Wow.
And then he also has a huge garden we have in the backyard, where he grows like spaghetti squash and zucchini and tomatoes, and even crossing vegetables. Like we have I think it's called a cucumber lemon.
Wow. Okay.
And I it's like my favorite thing. But he finds enjoyment doing that. And eventually, he does talk about wanting to go back to work, but we never get all the way through. It's kind of like we start, and then something happens and we stop.
Wow.
Because going back to work, he's going to have to go to counseling, see a psychiatrist and talk about the things. Because what happens when you get triggered at work? You can't just start yelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't be a sergeant at work.
Right.
Yeah.
At home too.
Yeah. On the other hand, you would lose out, because the benefits of gourmet meals might.
I'm telling you, right? Right.
Okay. Now, how about for you and your husband? Was there any social isolation, and how did it impact him and you? It sounds like you're involved in the community, but what was it like initially?
Um, I can say there was no interaction at all.
Mm-hmm.
I know when COVID came, it was, he was out in like 2010, around 2010. It was really tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just me trying to manage everything and just trying not to ruffle his feathers too much.
Mm-hmm.
But when COVID came and things started being delivered at home, I loved it because I didn't have to ask him to go to the store or accompany him, or he just get lost in, like, because he cooks, lost in the spices. I'm like, look, we can't buy
Wow.
$300 worth of, spices are kind of, they're kind of in seasoning are really expensive. But having the opportunity to go through things online, that was awesome. But at first we weren't going anywhere. Actually, we have a very, very, very small group of friends. It's mostly just family.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not really and he prefers military or prior service.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not that, he's like, well, they don't understand me, and I want to talk
Okay.
to them. And he always tells me we live in two different worlds, right?
Huh.
Which I understand because when he was in the military, I was there, but I was like,
Right.
really at the PX. I was not, I wasn't going to work with him. I wasn't in the motor pool, so I don't know the politics and what was going on there.
Okay.
So now he's involved in the church and volunteering and feeding the homeless and getting enjoyment, or how do you call it, like fulfillment through
Okay.
serving the community. And then he also, no matter where we go, he always asks people, are you prior service? Do you have your benefits? We know how to help you.
Wow. So that's kind of a good purpose.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
good. That's good.
Very good. Okay. But now, how about military culture and identity? How deeply, and I heard you say about he prefers to associate with mainly military people. Okay, so how does it impact his identity and the family dynamics?
Well, it's tough because he being a husband and being a father, which is very important, he still sees himself as a soldier. And I have to remind him often that we are not his soldiers. Right? He doesn't just bark commands and we just do what he says. Like there has to be some kind of compromise. And with the family dynamic, my son and my husband, they're like not really close. Like they didn't have that bond that my daughter and my husband have because he was there when my daughter was born. When my son was born, he wasn't there. He didn't see him really,
Right.
really to see him and eyes be focused until 15 months. So he's already one in a few months, and he's getting to know him, and he kind of didn't want to be bothered because he was like, this is all new. I know this is my dad, but this is all new. But we do have a military family that we are close with. So the people that we were stationed at Fort Bliss with, we are really close to. When it's time for us to take vacation, we always try at least once a year to see one of the families so they can connect and have those conversations and remember in the motor pool and remember we were deployed and what we did and how much fun we had. And when he was active duty at Fort Bliss, we had the best family barbecues because we all came together on the weekend and we ate and we broke bread and we played games and the kids were able to, play and run around, on post. And, so that was an awesome plus. But now, really, he's really just really close with the family and the people that he's been deployed with. He does really mourn really hard his friends that he lost overseas. It's heartbreaking, Labor Day and Memorial Day. He doesn't really want to do anything. He's just kind of, brought down. But I just have to remember, remind him that, remember that your life is valuable too. And you can remember them and, call their families and see how they're doing and, stay in contact instead of moping and being sad or being triggered by the day. Let's make it to a positive thing. So if we don't talk to somebody all year, that's the day we call everybody.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Cherish life. I believe
Right.
the soldiers we left behind would like for us to do that. That's a good way to remember and to cherish them.
Right. Right.
All right. Good. Now, caregiver burden. Your role as a caregiver or emotional or physical demand that may be placed on you, how did you handle that?
I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm still working on that.
Mhm.
I am not very good with my time because as soon as I get home, it's the family dynamic.
Mhm.
And when I don't have to work on the weekends, I do close myself up in my room and I feel so guilty for doing it, but I really need the time to myself. There are some things I want to implement in my life on the day to day, but it's hard to get there because once I get off work, I'm already drained.
Mhm.
And then I need to deal with whatever his needs are. So then sometimes my kids,
Mhm.
they get the short end of the stick. I'm like, hey, mommy's tired. Like, I will talk to you. Send me a text message.
Right.
And I will answer you. Like, I just need a couple of hours just to myself.
Okay.
But after I get off at 5 o'clock, by 7,
Mhm.
and they're doing their homework and getting ready for their next day, it's like the time is winding down. And I kind of feel like there's not even enough hours in the day. Like, really. I need like 6 more hours.
Okay. So you want a 30-hour day.
I do.
Okay. All right.
Not a work day, but
No, but 30 hours in a day.
after, right.
Okay.
It's just not enough time. And I do, the caregiver support services, they do hold me accountable. They do ask me, what am I doing for myself? They said, because if you burn out or you get sick, who's going to take care of the family? Who's going to keep things going forward? So I can tell you the truth. I do lie to them and say, oh, I do this for an hour, which I don't because I'm burned out, but that's something that I'm working on. And I know that's going to be a benefit to me also. I also own my own business. So, after I get home from one job, I'm on my social media and trying to work that aspect because I do events on the weekend. So it's just like I really need to just learn how to prioritize my time better. And I have to learn how to tell other people outside of my family or, outside the people in my home, no, that I can't. I only have this much time, or make an appointment.
Right.
It's just like, it's like I almost, run my life like a business.
You have a schedule,
Right.
certain responsibility, and they last all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how about childcare and education? So how has the impact of military life been on the children's education and emotional well-being?
Oh, it's a lot. For my son, he actually has a speech impediment. And I'm not a doctor. I have no idea.
Right.
But I feel like it's also from trauma. He was delayed with talking. And I think it's because, when my husband came home, he was like kind of short about things. I'm just like, he's only 3, like, or he's only 2, like, give him, like, hold on, like, he's doing wonderful now. He's getting ready to graduate and go to college, and he's doing good. But it was really tough when he came home. Actually, I didn't even go to work until my kids got to junior high, where I felt like they're going to be able to speak up for themselves. If they need something, they're going to be able to talk to me. I also worked a lot of nights so that I could be home while they're in school during the day, even after they got in junior high. So if they needed me, that I could be there. But I mean, I think it's developing. It's different. Like I said, with my son and my daughter, it's totally different. She is more independent and has a lot of compassion for her dad. And so she talks to him a lot. He talks to her a lot, sometimes more than he'll talk to me, just because they have, she's a daddy's girl. They have that bond. And then me and my son, we're more so closer. And
You have that bond.
yeah, we have that. And it's fine. And I'm not jealous at all. Sometimes. Because I always, but I mean, I think that's good. He needs that. And then he has a huge dog. And so the dog is his compassion. They're buddies and they go everywhere together. They ride the bike and they go on, and that's good for him too. So,
So that helps him. Does the dog's life in your house, does that affect you in any way?
It does, because I have allergies and I'm not an animal person, not that I hate animals, but the compassion. When the dog's crying and they can't tell me, I am, and he's like I want to say he's like a 90-pound dog. Like, I don't know. It's really that part, the unknown. When something's wrong, they can't tell me. And that's why I'm like, oh, not animals. But also because of the long hair. He's a bloodhound shepherd. So he's really big and really hairy and really red and just leaves hair everywhere. But my husband takes care of that. He makes sure that, he can clean up, but there's only so much you can do. The dander still bothers me. But I went on with it because I felt like he needed the dog, and there's, I can take some. I can, I'll just do what I can. I'll take allergy medicine, and he makes sure he cleans the dog hair up. But I feel like he needs that companion. Okay. When he doesn't want to talk to me, he can go talk to, our dog's name is Fred. He can talk to Fred. And, and my daughter too, she loves the dog. My son, he loves the dog too, but he's more so, video games and all that stuff.
Thank you. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to get to know you and some of the challenges and the ways you are coping with all those challenges and what you do in your life. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.